Welcome everyone. So I am going to teach you the NCERT sections. Okay, I am going to teach you the NCERT portions. Besides Trinatsa will teach you detailed NEET-based classes. I will teach you the basics that from the NCERT textbook. So he is at the section that is agents of pollination. So I am going to teach the basics of agents of pollination. Okay, then pollination is affected by many agents like wind, water, insects. Okay, pollination is affected by many agents like wind, water, insects, etc. Okay, so on the basis of these agents, pollinations are divided into abiotic agents and biotic agents. Okay, based on these agents, the pollination is brought. The pollination is divided into abiotic agents and biotic agents which cause pollination. So abiotic agents as well as biotic agents. Okay, then abiotic agents. It contains wind and water. Abiotic agents means it contains wind as well as water. Pollination by wind and pollination by water. Then biotic means pollination by insect. Biotic means pollination by insects. Pollination by insects are biotic agents. Okay. We can specifically provide names to these abiotic and biotic agents. We can provide some specific names to the abiotic and biotic agents of pollination. Okay, just look what are the names. We can provide specific names for both the biotic and abiotic agents of classification. We can look what are they. For abiotic, we can give name for abiotic, that is by, if it is by wind, the agent is wind, we can call that type of pollination as anemophily. We can call that as anemophily. Okay, the abiotic agent, if it is wind, we call anemophily. If it is water, suppose it is water, we will call hydrophily. Okay, so for abiotic, if it is water, we will call as anemophily. If it is wind, we call anemophily. If it is water, we call hydrophily. Okay, then let's look biotic agencies. We look second one, biotic agencies. Biotic agencies, there are several names, depends upon the animal which brought the pollination. We can provide several names based on the animal which provides the pollination. First one is cantherophily. If the pollination is brought by beetle, we call cantherophily. Okay, suppose the pollination is brought by moth. Moth are butterfly-like animals or insects which we can see on the night time. Mostly in the night time, it is ash mostly ash in color. Okay, so if the pollination is brought by moth, we called as selenophily. We call them as selenophily. Okay, if the pollination is brought by bees, suppose the pollination is brought by bee, we call them as melitophily. We call them as melitophily. Just try to remember all the words. Okay, melitophily. Then, suppose the pollination is brought by butterflies. Suppose it is brought by butterflies. Okay, then we call as psychophily. We call as psychophily. Okay, if the pollination is brought by butterflies, we will call as psychophily. Then, in case of snail, we call it is malacophily. We call as malacophily. We call them as malacophily. Okay. Then, if the biotic agent is birds, we will call as ornithophily. Ornithophily. Suppose the biotic agent is birds, we will call as ornithophily. Then, suppose it is bat. Okay, suppose the pollinating agent is bat, we will call them as Chiriptrophily. We will call them as Chiriptrophily. Okay, then finally, this is not final, just may. Okay, if it is brought by ant, suppose the pollination is brought by ant, we will call myrmecophily. We will call such type of pollination as myrmecophily. Okay, so the agents of pollination, it can be abiotic agents or biotic agents. Okay, if it is abiotic agents, we will under the abiotic agents there is wind as well as water. If it is by wind, we will call that type of pollination as anemophily. If it is water, we will call as hydrophily. Then come to the biotic agents. If the pollinating agent is a beetle, we will call that type of pollination as canthrophily, and suppose it is moth, called as salnophily. In case of bee, it is melitophily. In case of butterfly, it is psychophily. And snail, it is called malacophily. Birds, it is ornithophily. And bat, it is chiriptrophily. And ant, it is myrmecophily. Okay. Now, we will just discuss some details regarding anemophily. Okay, we can discuss some details regarding anemophily. So, anemophily. Anemophily is the type of pollination which is done by an abiotic agent. Abiotic agents. Anemophily. It is done by the abiotic agents, that is wind. Okay, so anemophily, it is the pollination which is brought by the abiotic agent wind. Then the wind pollinated flowers. The wind pollinated flowers we will call as anemophilous. Anemophilous. wind pollinated flowers are called anemophilous. Okay. Then the wind pollinated plants are generally situated in the wind exposed region that we already know. Then the anemophily is, we can say it is a chance event. Anemophily is a chance event. If they get a chance, they will pollinate. Otherwise, no. Why? Because it is mainly by wind. Okay, so if the pollen grains are strong and sticky, it definitely require a large wind. Small breeze cannot pollinate such type of pollen grains. That's why it is saying chance event. And also those pollen grains should want to travel with the wind and it want to reach that particular stigma. Okay, maybe in the path of the travel it may cause some damage or it may fall down the ground. Such things also happened. So that we call them as chance event. Pollen may not reach the target flower effectively and dry wasting during the transit from one flower to another. That's the thing that I said. Okay, due to this transit, the pollen grains can be wasted by losing them. Okay, then the common examples of wind pollinated flowers. The common example for wind pollinated flowers are grass, sugarcane, coconut, bamboo, palm, maize, etc. Palm, maize, etc. Okay. So the major examples of wind pollinated plants are grass, sugarcane, coconut, bamboo, palm, maize, etc. So you just look the examples. What common thing which you can get from these examples? The common thing from these examples which we get is all are monocot plants. Okay, all are monocot plants and they have light-weighted pollen grains. All these plants have light-weighted pollen grains. We will discuss about the features of the plants later. Okay, so anemophilous. Then the features. There are some common characters which is required for those plants which comes under anemophilous. So what are the characters or what are the characteristic features of anemophilous plants? The first character is the flowers should be in pendulous or spike or catkin inflorescence. So the anemophilous flower, it should be an inflorescence. The anemophilous flower, it should be inflorescence, and in that inflorescence also, particular inflorescence like pendulous inflorescence or spike or catkin. Okay, so the inflorescence should be pendulous or spike or catkin, and the axis of the inflorescence also should be a elongated axis. So elongated axis of inflorescence is required. So the axis of inflorescence should be elongated, so that it can be up from the leaf portion. Okay, so the axis of inflorescence elongates so that the flowers are brought well above the leaf. Then the perianth is absent or it should be highly reduced. Okay, so there should be no perianth or highly reduced perianth. Highly reduced perianth. Highly reduced perianth is required for the anemophilous type of pollination. Then the flowers are small. The flowers should be small, inconspicuous, colorless, not scented, do not secrete nectar. So the flower should be the character of flower. The flower should be small. The flower should be small, inconspicuous. inconspicuous. Flower should be small, inconspicuous. Then definitely it should be colorless. It should be colorless, odorless, and does not produce any nectar. No nectar producing flower. So what are the characters should be required for flower? It should be small, inconspicuous, colorless, odorless, as well as there should be no nectar producing. Okay, so these are the characters of flowers. Now look the characters of stamen. You know what is the stamen? Stamen is the male reproductive structure or organs which is present in the flower, and these stamens are present in the androecium. Okay, so the stamens should be numerous in number, and they are filamentous. Okay, numerous filamentous stamen should be there, or we can say versatile stamen. So the number of stamen should be more. So that is numerous stamen and versatile stamen. Okay, numerous and versatile stamens are required. Then anthers. The anthers which produce enormous quantities of pollen grains compared to number of ovules available for pollen grains. So there should be enormous production of anther, and it should be minute, light and dry. So what is the characteristics of anther? Anther should be numerous. Anther should be numerous, and it should be light, and it should be dry. Okay, so the anther should be numerous, it should be light, and it should be dry, so that we can easily carry those type of anther to long distance. Then the next character is the anther. It should be burst violently and release the pollen into the air, so that the anther should want to burst vigorously or violently, so that it can be easily release the pollen into the air. Example is Urtica. The plant Urtica. Okay, the plant Urtica. In that plant, the anther may burst violently. The anther burst violently, and the anther burst violently and release pollen to the air. Then in case of stigma, the stigma should be comparatively large, protruding, branched, feathery, and which is adapted to catch the pollen grains. So the stigma, character of stigma, the stigma should be large, so that it can capture the pollen which is gone through the wind. The stigma, it should be large, and it must be protruding. Large, protruding. Large, protruding, and it should be leathery. It should be leathery, so that it can easily catch the pollen grains. Okay. Then generally single ovule is present in single stigma. Generally, if you look the structure, we know single ovule is present in single stigma. Okay. Then the plant produce flowers before the new leaves appear, so that the pollen can carry it without hindrance of the leaves. Okay. So to avoid the disturbance of leaf, the plant should produce the flowers before the new leaves appear. The plant should produce the leaf before the new leaves appear. Okay, so these are the major characteristics of what? Anemophilous flower. What are they? Anemophily means it is wind pollination. that is the pollination by wind, is called anemophily, and the flowers which pollinated by wind is called anemophilous flower. The common examples are grass, sugarcane, coconut, bamboo, palm, maize. And we can call anemophily as a chance event. Then the major characteristics or features of anemophilous flowers are the inflorescence should be pendulous, spike or catkin-like inflorescence, and the axis of inflorescence must be elongated. Then there must be no perianth, or it should be a highly reduced perianth. Then the flower, what are the characters of flower? The flower should be small, inconspicuous, colorless, odorless, and nectar. There should be no production of nectar, so that other biotic agents never approaches these flowers. If there is a presence of nectar, odor or color, definitely biotic agents will approach to these flowers. Then the stamen should be numerous and versatile. Then in case of anther, the anther should be numerous, light, dry. Then example, in Urtica, the anther will burst violently so that the pollen grains can be easily released to the wind. Okay, so that it can easily travel with the wind and reaches the particular stigma. And stigma should be large, protruding and leathery. Now we can discuss the pollination in maize. Okay, we can discuss the pollination in case of maize. So the pollination in maize is an example for wind pollination, that is anemophily. Pollination in maize. Maize is a unisexual monoecious plant. Okay, so maize is a monoecious unisexual plant. Monoecious unisexual plant, and it has male inflorescence as well as female inflorescence. Okay, so the male inflorescence are called tassel. Male inflorescence are called tassel. Then female inflorescence are called cup. Male inflorescence are called tassel. Female inflorescence are called cup. Okay, so the male inflorescence is normally born in the terminal of maize. Terminal part of the maize, whereas the cup, that is the female inflorescence, it may on the lateral portion of the maize. Okay. Suppose the male inflorescence may form on the terminal portion of the plant, whereas the female inflorescence may form on the lateral portion of the plant. The male inflorescence we will call as tassel, the female we will call as cup, or we will call as ear. Cup or ear. Okay. Then the next point, the maize pollens are large, heavy and cannot be carried by light breeze. So the male pollens. We know pollens are produced by male flowers. So the pollens are, characters are, they are large. The pollen are large and heavy in structure. The pollen are large and heavy in structure, so that it cannot be carried by a light breeze. So it should require a heavy wind. Then the female inflorescence. Okay, the female inflorescence or female stigma. Female inflorescence or female stigma, it should require a long stigma. So female, it will require stigma long. Okay, so the stigma of the maize is long, approximately 23 centimeter in length. Approximately 23 centimeter in length. Okay, so that which projects beyond the leaf. So there is no hindrance of leaf due to the long stigma. Then the pollen grains which drop from the tassel is caught by the stigma. So when wind blows, the pollen grains from the tassel which comes and landed on the stigma of the cup or ear, and pollination may take place. Okay, so pollination in maize, it is by anemophily. Pollination in maize is by anemophily. So maize plants are monoecious and they are unisexual in nature, and the male inflorescence are called tassel and it is produced on the terminal end of the plant, whereas the female inflorescence are called cup and it is produced on the lateral side of the plant. Then the pollen grains, it should be large and heavy so that light breeze cannot carry these pollen. So for pollination, it requires a large breeze. Then female inflorescence or female, it requires large or long stigma. Okay, long stigma, so that these female plants can catch the male pollen grains through the wind. Approximately 23 centimeter long stigma can be found in maize plants. So when the pollen drops from the tassel and it can be caught by the stigma. Okay, so these are about the pollination in maize. So we just see the basics regarding anemophily. Now just look what is hydrophily. That is the abiotic pollination, hydrophily. So hydrophily means the pollination which is done by water. The pollination done by water is called hydrophily, and the hydrophily, which means the pollination which is done by water. Okay, and the flowers which pollinate by hydrophily are called hydrophilous flowers. Hydrophilous. Okay, so the pollination by water is called hydrophily, and the flowers which is pollinated by water are said to be hydrophilous. Examples are Vallisneria, Hydrilla, Hydrilla are some examples regarding hydrophily. Okay, so there are so many aquatic plants, but only a few plants will brought the pollination by hydrophily method. Okay, then the hydrophilous plants are majority the floral envelope should be reduced or absent. Okay, so reduced floral envelope. reduced floral envelope should be there in hydrophilous flower. So there should be no well floral envelope. Okay, in water plants, example Eichhornia and water lily, the pollination can be takes place through wind or insect. Okay, so the plants like Eichhornia, that is water hydrant, Eichhornia and water lily. This is an exception case. The pollination can be done by wind or insect. The pollination can be done by wind or insect in case of Eichhornia and water lily. That's why at the beginning I said that all the plants should not pollinate by water. It may have other agents. Then we can classify the pollination into hydrophily into two. We can classify hydrophily into two. Okay, first one is hypohydrophily and epihydrophily. Epihydrophily, hypohydrophily. So we can classify the hydrophily into two, that is epihydrophily and hypohydrophily. What is mean by epihydrophily? Okay, epihydrophily means the pollination which occur at the water level. Pollination occur at the water level is epihydrophily. Then what about hypohydrophily? The pollination occur inside the water. Hypohydrophily means the pollination occur inside the water is called hypohydrophily. So hydrophilia means the pollination which takes place by water is called hydrophily, and if the pollination which done on the surface of the water level is called epihydrophily, whereas the pollination which takes place under the water, that is inside the water, is called hypohydrophily. Examples for epihydrophily. Okay, examples for epihydrophily is Vallisneria and Elodea. Vallisneria. Okay, Elodea and Vallisneria are the two examples where epihydrophily type pollination takes place, and the pollination which occur inside the water is called hypohydrophily. This type of pollination takes place in Zostera and Ceratophyllum. Zostera and Ceratophyllum. Okay, so hypohydrophily type pollination may take place in Zostera and Ceratophyllum. Let me discuss two examples from both epihydrophily as well as hypohydrophily. Okay, first one, epihydrophily. Epihydrophily means pollination takes place on the water level, surface of the water level. Okay, epihydrophily example, Vallisneria. So what happens in Vallisneria? Okay, so Vallisneria is a dioecious plant and they are submerged and rooted hydrophytes. So they are dioecious, submerged and rooted hydrophyte. Okay. The female plants bear solitary flowers. Solitary flowers. Female plants bear solitary flowers and it having a long coiled stalk. Female plants bear solitary flowers and it having a long coiled stalk. So at the time of pollination, what happened means these solitary flower bearing female plant may give rise to the surface of the water level with the help of this long coiled stalk. Okay, when the male it produces pollens, what happened means the pollen grains may come detached from the male flowers and it float on the surface of the water. The male flowers may produces pollen grains and these pollen grains may detach and float on the surface of the water. As soon as the male flowers comes in contact with the female flower, the pollination may takes place. Okay. So that the stalk of the female flower may reduce and come back inside the deep of the water when fruit is produced. So the stalk of the female flower coils and goes under water where fruit are produced. So these are about the pollination in Vallisneria. So Vallisneria spiralis, it is a dioecious submerged and rooted hydrophyte. The female plant which bear solitary flowers which give rise to surface of the water level with the help of a long coiled stalk, and the female flower may come on the surface of the water and the male plant may produce male flowers which get detached and floated on the surface of the water. As soon as male flower come into contact with female flower, pollination may take place and the stalk of the female flower coils and goes under the water when the fruits are produced. These are epihydrophily. Now look, hypohydrophily. Hypohydrophily. What is hypohydrophily? Hypohydrophily means the pollination may take place inside the water. Example, Zostera. Example, Zostera. In Zostera, it is Zostera marina. Okay. It is a submerged marine seagrass. So Zostera is a submerged plant. Submerged marine grass. Submerged marine grass. Okay. And the pollination takes place under the water, so that we call it hypohydrophily. Then the pollen grains. What are the characters of pollen grains? The pollen should be long and needle-like. The pollen should be long and needle-like structure should be there, and these pollen grains may shed under the water. Why? Because they are submerged plants, so that the pollen grains which produce in the male flowers may shed down under the water. So the specific gravity of the pollen is same as that of the seawater. So the gravity of the pollen should be equal to the gravity of seawater. Gravity of seawater, so that the pollen can float freely at the depth. Okay, so the gravity of pollen and gravity of seawater is same, so which helps in the floating freely at the depth of the sea by the pollen grains. Then what are the characters of stigma should be there? The stigma must be large, very large and long. The stigma should be large, very large and long. The stigma should be very large and long, so that the pollen comes in contact with the stigma and gets coiled around the stigma, thus the pollination may take place. So once the male flower releases the pollen grains, the pollens come into contact with the stigma and it gets coiled around the stigma, so that pollination may take place. So these are the epihydrophily and hypohydrophily. So we discussed about anemophily and hydrophily, that is the abiotic agents of pollination. Okay, so tomorrow we can discuss the biotic agents of pollination. Okay,